It's afternoon now, isn't it? Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Friday. Hope you're all feeling Friday vibes. Happy Friday vibes. I'm Rosie. Nice to see you all. I'm going to do a really fun craft with you today. I've called it Head in the Clouds. It doesn't need to be called that. It just went that way. This was one of those really experimental things that I just really wanted to have a go at. I've seen a lot of like stuff on Instagram. I don't know if it's like my algorithms sort of picking up on me wanting to do sort of cardboard cutout kind of crafts. But basically, it's sort of like interactive card collage, essentially. And the reason I love this is because it's really easy to do and anyone can get involved. And you'll see in a minute, because I'm going to show you my version and also my daughter's version. And what made me really keen to do this session with you guys today is that I loved doing it and my 6-year-old loved doing it too. And you know, like kids have quite small attention spans when it comes to crafts. This took quite a long time to do. Like you can put as much work into it as you want, but she really stuck with it and she really engaged with it and she did the whole thing. And I was so impressed. I was like, I have to tell other people about this. We have to do it. So today we're gonna make it. I'm quite glad. I'm always very glary in this room. I don't know what it is about the lighting. It's because I'm sat in front of a window. It's very grey outside. It's quite autumnal, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if I'm glary because I'm going to be doing this now. So this is super simple. You don't need to use loads of stuff. I've tried to involve lots of recycled materials, so you don't have to buy anything. You can use stuff that you've got at home. I guess the only thing that you might not have at home, I don't know, do people have these at home? So these are the, what are they called? It says on the back here, paper fasteners, but I think they've got another name. Is it split pin? I think they're split pins, where you used to use them at school, right? So I've got a box of these, so we're going to use those. They're not necessary, but they're the only thing I can think of that you might be required to get if you don't have in your house. Everything else is recycled cardboard, paper, pens, cutting and sticking, just a bit of fun. It's just the way we put it together, you know. So I'm going to show you mine and I'm going to show you Ramona's. It's very, very exciting. So this is mine and I've called it Head in the Clouds. All I wanted to do is a face that sort of opened up and it's sort of like you're looking inside someone's brain. That was my only kind of starting point, and then I just went with it and it turned into this. But essentially I've used a cornflake box, which we're going to use today, and then we open it up. If you've not seen this, I'm acting like none of you have seen this. You might have seen the pictures, I'm not sure. So you don't need many split pins, Victoria. I'm only going to use 2. If you can get 2, then that's fine. And actually you don't need them at all, to be fair. It was just to add a bit of a spinning effect, as you'll see when I reveal the face. If you've seen this already, can you please act surprised? So we're going to open her up. Here she is. And what we've got is, I mean, we've already got Neptune falling out here, but basically what we've got is sort of like a kind of weather and sky and space theme. So on the inside, I've sort of created her face, and here's where the split pins come in. So we've got the spinning, I mean, they sort of spin, the spinning sun, the spinning moon. We've got the cloud up here, which I've just sort of added on. I just wanted it to be a bit like tactile, something you can move and play with, you know. And then the lips move. It just says hi when you open up the lips there. And then on this side, I've gone for space. And I've just made all these tiny little envelopes for all of these little guys to sit in. And I've just made all the planets. And I just really loved making it. It was so much fun. We've got 2 split pins. Fantastic. We've got split. It's going to be fine. From here on in, it's going to be absolutely fine. So this was my take on it. So this was what I did. So now I'm going to show you Ramona's. Ramona is 6 and I'm really impressed with what she went with. So we might incorporate some of Ramona's ideas. So Ramona's face is very abstract. She's gone very Picasso here. And she's basically gone over the face with some pens and then made this sort of abstract face out of like cut out. It's like an old envelope that she's cut out, which is a love already. Now hers opens out a different way. Hers goes this way. So she's done the same thing as me with her face. So she's done a cloud and a sun and a shooting star. And then we've got here, she's gone with a balloon and she's written birthday. And then underneath it is a birthday cake with candles. And this is my favourite bit. So she's done her space over here. So she's done the planets, but not, they're not all separate like mine. But this is the thing I love most about this, because this came from her imagination. This was not my idea, I promise. So at the bottom here, she's got some bushes. And then when you reveal the bushes here, there's a little cat. Oh no, fox. It says I'm a fox. There we go. I'm a fox, which I thought was adorable. And then on the other side here, she's gone in with a rainbow. And underneath the rainbow is a cloud. And I love this one. So this is a leaf. And underneath the leaf is a caterpillar. How cute is this? So there's two wonderful examples of the sort of head. We're calling it head in the clouds, but it could be anything really. It's just a face that is interactive, that opens out. And I just really like the idea, because it opens out, we could potentially say it could be a card. Now I'm going to attempt to sort of stand this up. You're not going to see it very well, but it stands up quite nicely because it's a folded piece of card. So there's no reason why we can't turn this into a Christmas craft and make Christmas cards out of it. It can be Christmas themed. They could be smaller than this. So this is quite large, but you could definitely make a smaller version. And you could gift it to anyone. It might be the sort of thing you could make for a child as a gift. I just think they're great fun. So the possibilities here are endless, and it's really easy to do. So I shall stop yapping and I'll start doing some cutting and sticking. So I'm going to move these out of the way, which is very sad because they're so lovely to look at. And I'm going to get myself a cornflakes box. Now I think I'm just going to, sorry for the wobble, I'm just going to move my camera up a bit so you can see a little bit more of my very messy space. So I've got a cornflake box here. Can be any kind of cereal. It doesn't have to be cornflakes if you don't like cornflakes. I think I used a Shreddies box or Weetabix or any kind of box. And then what we're going to do is we're going to find the seam where you can sort of like peel it apart. So you'll find on one of the corners, it will be where it's sort of been folded together. And then you can sort of peel it away so that it turns into one piece of card. And then you can open it up and knock everything over as you're doing it. And the great thing about this is we're going to use the cereal box to make the face, but we can keep all of the offcuts and use those to make anything else that we want. So you only need one cereal box. You need one cereal box, loads of pens and sticky tape and 2 split pins if you have them, and any sort of scrap paper, which we'll go on to later. But you don't need to worry about you don't need any extra cardboard because this is more than enough. And then what you want to do is you want to sort of fold it in half. So I'm going to sort of fold it here. This is going to be my fold line. Now what that means is we're going to have the face here and then another face here. So you are going to have a crease on one of the faces. And you can choose, so you might be able to tell. Can you see on the inside? Oh, I don't think you're going to be able to tell. This is how much it doesn't matter. But there's like a line going along here. But because we're going to stick paper on top of it and glue it all together, it's still really hard and it's not going to bend. So don't worry about that. It will feel like it's going to be a bit flappy for a bit, but it's going to be fine. So I'm going to now bend it in half this way. And I'm going to bend it this way simply because I can see what I'm doing here rather than on this side with all the writing. So we're going to bend it in half and we need to remember where our bend line is. It's a bit like when we cut out snowflakes and you have to like cut out the right bits so it doesn't fall apart, but much, much easier. And I'm going to draw around this one. But essentially it's the simplest way of doing it. Now I've done this sort of like bob haircut because it's my haircut, but it doesn't have to be this sort of hair. It can be any sort of hair you like. You could be really experimental with it and do something floaty. It doesn't have to have hair at all. It can be however you want. But what I would say is the simpler the better. And this for me is the simplest shape. You're doing a semicircle and then 2 lines in and then the shoulders. And then you've got 2 points at which it's going to bend and hold it all together. So I'm going to draw around it with a marker pen so that you can see what I'm doing. I find that the pencil marks don't seem to pick up on my camera very well. So I'm going to use a marker pen, but you don't have to. You can use a pencil so that it's not as obvious, although we're going to cut it out anyway, so it's fine. So you're kind of working in the flattest area of the cereal box. So that's why I've placed it here, so that I don't get these guys involved here. And I mean, I'm probably easier just freehanding it because there's all these bits and bobs going on, but we'll try anyway. So we're going to go, and if you go wrong, doesn't matter because we're going to cut it out anyway. And what you could do is experiment. I would say that your 1/2 of your cereal box is just over an A4, around A4. So you could practice on an A4 piece of paper with your shape and then trace it onto there. You don't have to sort of do it straight away. If you're worried about the shape of the face, you just need to make sure that you've got enough bits on your fold line for it to sort of have structural integrity, like a bridge. There we go. And that's it. That's all you need to do. Super, super simple. We've got our face shape. We've got the shoulders. Lovely. And then we're going to cut this out. And you can cut this out one bit at a time if you want, but I'm just going to go in and do the whole thing. So I'm going to cut both sides at the same time, which might be quite tough because there's 2 bits of cardboard. But I'm going to go for it anyway. And this was definitely easier when I did it before. And I think that's because I used the kitchen scissors and they're a bit better than these. But like I say, you can do this one side at a time, as long as you make sure you don't cut these bits. You could also use a craft knife if you're handy with a craft knife. But you just want to make sure you've got a nice soft surface underneath that you don't mind getting cut on. So I'm not going to use it on this. On my phone. The amount of craft sessions I do for Virtual Village Hall, you can see displayed on my desk from all the previous sessions. I'll work my way round. And you can always go over this again and make it a bit neater if you so wish. You can just do this as like your first go. This is the hardest bit, just this little bit here, the hair and the shoulder. Oh, there you go. So we've got our face shape there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to sort of keep hold of these offcuts. So we've got quite a lot here. You can see all of these bits are going to be useful. We can use all of them. I'm going to put them to one side so that you can see what I'm doing. And then we've got now our face. Perfect. And as I mentioned before, one of them is going to have a fold line in. If you have like a really large bit of cardboard that's this sort of thickness, you can definitely use that. But what I would say is I think cereal boxes are the perfect thickness because you can still cut them. They don't hold too much weight. Like you know, they're like the perfect weight, I would say. So there is our face. Lovely. She stands up really well. And you can now decide, based on how you're going to do things. I'm going to cover both sides essentially, but you don't have to. So in Ramona's one, let's see what she did. So Ramona didn't do any sticking on hers. So I covered mine in paper, which I'm going to show you in a second, but she just covered hers with pen. So you don't have to do this next section if you don't want to, depending on how you're going to do it. But what I would do is I've got myself here through all the mess. I've got like an old newspaper here. And I think a newspaper is good because newspapers have fold lines in their pages. So you can use that to your advantage for the fold line of the face. If this one was folded nicely, which it's not. And also, if you've seen my sessions before, of which there are many, you can go back and watch them all after this if you want, in the archives. I love a recycled paper. I love any kind of old books, magazines, newspapers used as a sort of background, because they're adding texture, they've got a bit of detail in them. It's just far more pleasing on the eye than it is just a plain piece of paper. So I'm always encouraging people to use recycled paper rather than buying, you know, like boring plain paper. We don't need plain paper, it's fine. So newspaper here is great, because essentially we can do exactly the same thing. We can make sure our fold line is on the same side as our cereal box, and then we can place that on top there. I'm going to pop it right at the top so we're not wasting any. And then same rules apply. I'll do it with a marker pen again so you can see, but you can use a pencil. And then we're just drawing round like so. And I mean, what you could do is you could make a template one like this. You could cut loads out, and then you could do this as a session with, you know, your mates or a group of children. You could do this and then make loads in one go so that this bit's easier. So now we've got our face on the paper. I'm going to do the same thing again, and I'm going to cut it in one go. And hopefully what we should find is that it fits perfectly. And if it doesn't fit perfectly, that's okay. I'm just going to cut this off, cut off, so it doesn't get in my way. And I'm going to cut around here again. And again, the reason I would use a pencil over a marker pen is so that you're not left with these big black marks, which I've got on mine. But that's just so that you guys can see what I'm doing, because this window is just so bright. It doesn't matter how dark it is outside. I'm not even sure what, because my room looks over the back garden, and I'm not sure what facing my house is. You know, you're supposed to have a south facing garden. I don't know what facing my garden is. I have no idea. I can't see the sun, so I couldn't find out anyway. But that's okay, because we're going to make a sun in a minute. Okay. I chose the most crinkled bit of newspaper, so that was clever, wasn't it? Okay, we've done that. Lovely. So this can probably go in the bin now. They're quite small bits. But any sort of excess paper that you have that's sort of big enough, you keep to one side because we can use it. So now we've got, and we can choose which side we want to use based on the kind of the images. And we can stick that on. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to stick this one onto the cornflake side, because it's got lots of stuff that I want to cover up. I don't really want the black writing. It's going to get in my way. So I'm going to stick this onto here, and I'm going to leave the other side blank. However, here's one I made earlier moment. I have got one here that I've used, and I've done both sides. So you can cover both sides of your face so that it's completely covered in paper, or none at all. It's entirely up to you. And if you're wondering what this lovely paper is, this is paper that's come from my printer, because my printer has broken, and I have done so many print cleans on my printer, and it does this cleaning thing, and then it prints out all the colours on these graphs. And I've done it so many times. I've got so many of these. I thought I'd better put them to use. So if you're like, oh, what's that lovely paper Rosie's got? Well, all you need is a printer that isn't working properly and very little patience. That's basically what this is. But I thought this would look really nice. So you can be really imaginative and inventive with the paper that you decide to use. You don't have to use, again, we don't need plain paper. It's fine. So I'm going to stick this down on the cornflake side, and I'm going to leave the cardboard side as it is because we can cover it up anyway. And I'm going to use Pritt Stick now simply for time. But for my other ones, I did use PVA glue just because I think it sticks better. And it's sort of, because PVA glue is wet, it sort of soaks into the cardboard and then it all dries as one, and I think that helps solidify it, make it stronger. So if you're thinking about covering your face with something, I would go with PVA over Pritt Stick, and I'm just using Pritt Stick today so that you don't have to watch me wrestle with PVA glue and a paintbrush. But you can still use Pritt Stick, that's absolutely fine. It's just not as sticky, is it? It doesn't last as long. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that I've really gone over the edges so that the edges really stick down. And I'm currently using the face itself as my sort of background so that I don't get glue on my table. And I think what I'll do is, I mean, I'm not quite sure if this is a good idea. I was going to say I might stick one side down and then do the other, but I'm not. I'm thinking I'm going to do the whole thing just so we're not faffing around. And as always with these craft sessions, if you're doing this alongside me today, that's great. But remember, you can always watch back later if I'm going too quickly. And you can really take your time on these. But I guess you can work alongside me and then have another go later, because it doesn't require any sort of expensive materials. You just need to eat loads of cereal, which is fine. I think that's okay. I mean, the amount of cereal we get through in our house is a very good indication of how many of these I could make, which is lots. And actually, I don't know if you're that bothered, but we buy the Weetabix, like not actual Weetabix, but Weetabix adjacent, and they have like the 3 packets in. So those boxes are a little bit bigger than a cornflakes one. So if you want to make one slightly bigger, then you've got to start eating Weetabix. Okay, so now I've stuck that down. I'm going to stick it on here, and you can line it up. The great thing about using Pritt Stick or PVA is it's got a bit of give in it, so you can make sure it fits. And if it doesn't, if it's a little bit crinkly, also fine. It'll add texture. And we're going to cover it up with lots of stuff anyway. So this doesn't have to be super neat if you don't want it to be. Okay. So one of the other reasons that I'm using Pritt Stick today instead of PVA is because PVA is wet and it will make all the paper quite crinkly. You're best to sort of let that to dry completely before you carry on. So that's another thing I would say, is if you do stick this down with PVA, just do that and then set it to one side until it's dry, and then the paper's all nice and flat. I often put mine on the radiator so it dries quicker because I've got no patience. Okay, so that's all stuck down nicely. It probably won't stick as well as PVA, but it will definitely do. And then we can fold that up. So now we've got our lovely face. Now, I'm trying to decide whether I should use this one or use my weird printout one. I think I'm going to use this one. Because this will just make me sad that my print is still broken. Okay, so we're going to move on to the face now. Oh goodness, we've got so much to get through. So we'll do the front of the face. Front of the face, again, that can be quite simple. If you want to go down Ramona's route and be quite abstract with it, you could cut out some shapes and stick them on to make the face. I'm going to do it like this today. I'm going to do lovely bright hair, add the writing in, and what I'm going to do to begin with is I'm going to use some really big chunky pens. So these are big chunky Posca pens. They're sort of paint markers. You don't have to use these. I say this in every single session because I use them quite a lot. They are expensive, but they last ages and they're really good. If you're an avid crafter and it's something you invest time and money into, then Posca pens are definitely worth it, but they're not absolutely necessary. I would say the alternative to this is just some cheap paint or just some nice pens that you can colour in with. I'm only using these today because they're super big and it will take me much less time to show you what I'm doing. So you don't need these if you don't want to. Any kind of pens, paint, whatever you like is fine. But what I'm going to do first is I'm just going to sort of mark out my face. Where's my pencil? Here. So all I'm going to do for this is I'm just going to sort of mark out the hairline really simply, just so I know where I'm colouring in. So she's got her bob here and her lovely short fringe like me. And then I will probably colour the rest in and then do the face on top. I might do a little neckline here just so I know. And I think we'll go with pink hair because why not? It's a Friday. And I'm going to colour in this super quickly. I just want to cover it as best as I can. And again, you can definitely take your time with this. In fact, why am I using this one? I've got an even bigger one. A really chunky pink one. Look at this. I would say if you're interested in investing in Posca pens, what you'll find is big craft shops like Hobbycraft will often do sort of deals on multi-packs of them. So you can buy them all separately, or if you go onto sort of like Hobbycraft or the Range, places like that, you'll sometimes find that like a pack of 12 is 20% off or something like that. So just keep your eye out if you are wondering. But essentially, the other thing that you can do is go to your local graffiti outlet. So Posca pens were basically created for graffiti artists. It's for detail. The idea is that they work on any surface at all. And so you will find if in your area there's a place that sells spray paint and things like that, they'll often sell these as well. And the one closest to me in Leicester, I think they sell theirs at sort of wholesale price. They just seem a lot cheaper than getting them off Amazon. So try and if you do want to invest in these, try shopping local as well, because you might find that they're cheaper. They are wonderful, but I'm also going to show you these as well. And I have used these a couple of times before on here. So these are Sharpie creative markers, and they're very similar to Posca pens, much cheaper, and they're really good. They're quite new, so you'll find at the minute you can get some quite good deals on them because they're like a new product. So they're the Sharpie creative markers, and they work in the same sort of way. And I'm probably going to use them because there's a pink in there. Where's the pink? There it is. So I might add some pink on here. I'm going to do her face first. So, I mean, we might just do a really crazy colour. I'm going to go in with this sort of mint green because I really like it. And again, you can be really creative with this. You don't have to stick to the right colours, textures. You could add some stuff in. And I'm also I might pop some oil pastel on there because they're really poppy, and you can get oil pastels really cheaply. You don't need fancy ones at all. But whatever you've got in the house, doesn't really matter. Mixing colours is fine. And I'm trying to do this speedily so that I can definitely get some of the inside done for you. I don't think we're going to be making the whole solar system, but I will show you how to make the whole solar system. It's really easy. And then we're going to choose one more colour to go at the bottom. Let's go with a lovely dark blue. And now you can see why my desk is so messy, because I don't really pay much attention to what's going on underneath here. And you're just covering the area, really. You can add so much to it. You can do so much with it. You just want to get some colours down just so that you've got a bit of something. Is her hair dry now? Can we add some sort of... So this pink is ever so slightly different. So you could sort of add some pattern in. There's no reason why you couldn't use sort of like cutouts. In fact, I'm going to do that now so I can show you. So this is like an offcut from when I've been painting and printing. It's just like a bit of scrap, but it's got some pinks on it. So what you could do is, what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw around top of her head. So I've got a base point. And then I'm going to cut it out. And then that will fit there quite nicely. And what we might do is just give that, rip the edges, and we can pop that on there. Where's my Pritt stick? Here it is. It's just building up layers, really. Oh. And then we can pop that on there. Perfect. And we're going to write over the top of it anyway, but we could add some other colours in. I was thinking maybe popping some red in there. So we might you could almost do like the strands of hair. And again, you can be really experimental with this. Maybe do lines all the way across. Lovely. And then I want to go in, I'm going to go over the top of the green with this white, but mainly just to sort of lighten it up a bit. And you can smudge it. And again, if you're using paint, this might have a different effect, but you're just sort of experimenting with mark making, really. Nice. Happy with that. Dirty fingers, that's fine. And then we might outline her hairline. Lovely. And then we've got her neck. I want to outline this bit. Maybe I'll just go in with the black marker pen just to add a bit of detail, give her a bit of a collar. Lovely. So that's looking good. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to work onto the inside now, but so that this can dry a bit, and then I can add her face and any writing later. But again, you could add stuff to it. At this point, I'm thinking you could put sequins on it, glitter, whatever you like, beads, anything, pasta, make it into pasta art. Why not? So while that's just sort of drying a little bit, it's not too wet. You could probably get away with doing it now, but I'm going to move on to the inside anyway. And I'm going to show you the split pins, and then I'm going to show you how to make a start on your solar system if you want to do a solar system. So we'll do this bit first. Let's do her eyes. So I've got another, here's one I made earlier, but I'll show you how to do it. So we've got a sun and a moon, and they're basically going to sit there, and we're going to put our split pins on. So the reason I've made these already is so that I don't have to colour them in. I can just show you how I cut them out. The only thing I haven't done is the other side of this lovely moon's eye. I'll just add a bit of detail in there. There we go. Lovely. So we're going to get some of our offcuts from earlier. So we've got our cornflake offcuts. I'm just going to rip one of the edges off and hit the camera, make it wobble. And one of these is absolutely fine. So this is like one of the edges. So that will be perfect size. And really what you want to do is make sure that they are going to fit into the space. You basically want 2 circles, and the sun we're going to cut out a little bit. So you can kind of do a bit of a guesstimation. I would sort of be I'd just be using my fingers like this and sort of going, okay, about there. And then in terms of the width, again, slightly less wide than the card we've got, and about this wide. It doesn't have to be neat, essentially. It doesn't have to be perfect. I'm just sort of guessing. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with a circle, which can be my moon eye. And then what I will do is I'll cut that out. Quite roughly. I'm not going to be careful, and just see how it sits, really. So that there is absolutely fine. That's going to fit really nicely. And then another one the other side. They're not going to get in the way of each other. You don't want them to overlap. They want to sort of look a little bit like eyes. So that's fine. I think that size is fine. I might cut it down just a smidge. So we've got our moon there. And then for our sun, so the sun is going to be a slightly smaller circle. So a bit like that. So you can see it's slightly smaller than that one. And then I'm just going to add these sort of like, kind of doing it a bit like a cog. I think that's the best way of describing this sunshine. It's like a cog, but I liked the look of it. You could do like pointy lines. You could do your sun however you want. This felt to me like the simplest way of making a sun have sun rays, but still look kind of circular. And then I'm just going to go ahead and cut that out. And you can make sure it's going to fit. That size is absolutely perfect. Now I'm not going to cut all of this out because I've got a couple here that I'm going to use. But that's how we're going to get our sun and our moon. Perfect. And then once we've got those cut out, we can just go in and colour them in. So you'll notice that they're sort of a few different colours. And I've done the same as I've applied to the front here. I've just sort of mixed a few different colours that are similar. What I might do is I might use this side just to show you. So let's go in with like a light blue here. And you might just colour the whole thing in. And again, like I said, you don't have to use these. You could use paint. You can use normal pens. So I've coloured that in the blue and I'm going to let that dry, and then I might put another blue in. And then same for the sunshine. I've used orange and yellow, and I've also added a bit of oil pastel. So I'm going to show you those now while the blue is drying. So these are fluorescent oil pastels. You can buy oil pastels super cheaply. You can get them really, really cheap. You don't need a fancy oil pastel at all. You can buy them for a couple of quid. Sometimes you can get them in like pound shops. But these are fluorescent ones, which I love. Like, they really pop. They're fantastic. You can probably see like the sort of, well, I don't know if you can see. I've put some of the yellow and the orange on there. That's quite zingy. I've used the pinks on her hair on the top again, just to make it pop a little bit. And these were, I think they were about £6 off Amazon. I really love them, but normal oil pastels that cost very, very little are always absolutely fine. But I've used those just so you know where the zingy colours are coming from. That's where they're from. So this is just, you will notice with your cornflake box that the shiny side will take longer to dry than the cardboard side. So that might inform the order that you do things in, or the things that you cut out and where you do them. So just bear that in mind. What you could do if you were smart and like me just here, is the cardboard side you can colour in with your pens and paints, and then your shiny side that's got the sort of advertisements on, you could glue stuff onto it like your paper. So you could do a bit of two. You could do a bit of colouring in and a bit of collage to save on time. But this is nearly dry now, so you can add more colours in. And then pop your faces on. And again, I've done very, very simple faces. We don't have to do fancy faces. And if you're looking at these faces going, oh, but they're really lovely, then don't worry, because I did a face drawing session on here a few months back. So I did a session that was like creating cartoon faces and how I do it, how I do my fun faces, which I'm fairly confident you can watch back. And that was a lot of fun. It's basically loads of these sort of faces. So you can always give that a watch if you want to copy my style of faces. So now that we've got our sun and our moon, we're going to put them into place. So we can use our split pins now. What I would say at this point is you can always take the split pins out. There's nothing wrong with that. But I would just say But you might want to fill your space with other stuff first. You might want to add some stuff in. I mean, what have I done on here? So here I've added some, I've used the newspaper, I've done some cutting and sticking and some mark making. So here I've used an old envelope and then I've scribbled on it. And then I've put some bits of paper on. So I've just built it up with some collage. So you could do that, no problem. So just bear that in mind before you put these in. But like I say, you can always take the split pins out and then go back and do some more background work. So I would say this is the hardest bit, is putting the split pins in, because you have to make holes. But essentially, you want to hold it into place. I've got a pair of tiny scissors, so like little sewing scissors. I think these are really good because they're little and sharp. They can't do too much damage, but also because they're like little. And you want to find, you want the middle, so you want like the middle of the nose. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna sort of score a hole in there. The reason I'm doing this with the scissors is because I find the split pins aren't very good at making the holes. So there's the hole. And then we want to make sure it's in the right position. And then we're going to score a hole into the cardboard here, just so it's visible, so we know where it is. And then we can essentially do the same thing here, so that we know it's all going to sit in the right place. And then we can put our split pin in. And it will make a bigger hole than we've already made, but at least it'll all go through. And then that will go through here. There we go. And we can push that through. Beautiful. Turn it over. And we can spin it around if we want it to spin the whole way, just so that it's... And again, you might want to do your background on this side first before you put your split pins in. The only reason I'm not doing that today is because of time. And then what I'm going to make sure I do is sort of just hold it into place. Now, what I've done is I just want it to be able to move a little bit. I don't really need it to be able to spin the whole way around. So I sort of give it a bit of motion, and then you can always stick these down. So I would just use, oh, sorry, that was a very big bottle, wasn't it? I've used sort of masking tape, but sort of brown masking tape, which is honestly the best thing I've ever bought, because it's so good for crafts. You can draw on top of it. It's eco-friendly. It's called, like, I think it's like craft parcel tape. So it's sold as parcel tape, but it's eco-friendly, which is why it's sort of matte and recyclable. But for crafting, it is the best. And then we're going to do the same with the moon, because we've got to get onto these planets, haven't we? Oh, the time. I was very ambitious with this one. So again, we're going to pop this into the right place. Try and get your hole in the middle of your circle. There we go. Just be careful with this one because you're using scissors. Draw your area here. Lovely. And then we can use our second split pin. And there is nothing stopping you if you've got more than 2 split pins, unlike some of us. You could do loads of versions of this. There's so many things you could do. I'm thinking you could have a cloud here. You could do the whole inside could be like the weather. You could have clouds, rainbows, all sorts of stuff. And there's nothing stopping you using your split pins in the whole of it, making the whole thing interactive. All I would say is if you are using loads of split pins, remember that if you use them on this side, those split pins are going to show through on this. So just bear in mind when you're using your split pins where they're going to be placed and where they're going to come out the other side. Okay, looking good. Give that a bit of a spin. And then we can do that at the back there. I'll just leave that for now. But there you go. So you've got your eyes now. They're fun, lovely jubbly. And then the lips, again, we're just going to cut out a shape. So here's one I made earlier. You want to cut out and you just want to get the right width. Just keep trying with your size. I'm just going to add a nose in while I think about it. Just going to do a big line. Lovely. And then we've got our lips here. And again, you can be really creative with how you deal with them. You could just stick them down. I just stuck mine down and then made it sort of, again, another part of the interaction. So I might sort of do it like this. That works quite nicely, actually, doesn't it? Don't think I need to do much more than that. There you go. That's nice, isn't it? Lovely. And then what I would do is, I like that you can see the tape. I don't think there's any problem with that. But what I might do is colour in the tape that's stuck to the lips. And then this bit I'll leave. I think that looks really nice. There you go. And then that flaps quite nicely. And we can put something cute underneath there if you wanted to, whatever you like. So now we've got a face building up. Again, I would do something with the head here. In my version, I've done exactly the same thing as these guys. I've cut out a cloud, I've coloured it in. This one, I think I might have painted with some glitter glue just because I could. And then I've just hole punched the top and then hole punched the head and then put string through it. So there's another sort of interactive option. We're talking hole punch and string to attach things to. I think I put a little face on that side. So that's really easy. We can all have a go with that if you've got a hole punch. And we might, again, want to build up with this. But I'm going to move on to the planets because otherwise we're going to run out of time. I want you to be really experimental with it and try lots of different things. And if you do make this, if you're making it now or if you're going to make it in the near future, please send us pictures. I'd really love to see other people's versions. This is why I was so keen to do this, because I was so... I couldn't believe like how imaginative my daughter was with hers after sort of seeing mine and then doing completely different elements. I just thought it was really lovely. So I'd really love to see like where your imagination takes you with this. So please show us. Really love to see. Okay, I'm going to move on to this side now and we're going to do some planets. And again, maybe as I'm talking, it might get your creative juices flowing. You might think of different things that you could do. If I just show you the process, then you can go for it with whatever things you wish. If you're not into planets, you could do other stuff. But again, I'm going to use some of the offcuts from the cardboard cornflake box. And I'm going to... Oh, there seems to be a delivery at my door, which means my dog is doing lots of barking. Apologies if you can hear my dog barking. So I'm going to use one of these offcuts here and I'm going to draw. So if you want to do the planets, what I would suggest is draw all of your planets out first before you sort of cut them out, because they're all different shapes and sizes, aren't they? But I'm going to just do a couple just so you can see. But yeah, I did have to sort of remind myself of them all and their sizes. I just Googled solar system and then on Google Images, just so I could remember the sort of shades that they are sort of presented as and the sizes, because obviously Jupiter's your biggest. Jupiter is good fun. Maybe we'll do Jupiter and Saturn, but these guys are a bit smaller. But yes, let me show you how I do those. So I'm going to just draw, and again, you've got to sort of place them in the right areas. You've got to get them to fit. So I think what I worked out is you can get 4 on the top because they're all quite small. So Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, and then you've got Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. So 3, 4, 2. Yeah, fine. But I'm just going to do a couple of planets again so that I have time to show you the rest of it. So we'll do this guy here. This could this be Jupiter? This is quite small. Maybe Mars. And then we'll do Earth. Yeah, why not? Again, you can work out the sizes. And of course, these sizes are not, fit for all, because you're all going to use different bits of cardboard. You're all going to do different shaped heads. You're all going to use different cereal boxes. So I'm not going to tell you exact sizes here, but if you're using like a whole cereal box, the general rule would be 3, 4, 2. No, 4, 3, 2. So the main thing really is that I've made sort of vague circle shapes. I don't want them to be perfect circles because I don't like I don't really like symmetry. If you do want them to be perfect circles, the only thing I could recommend to you is that you find a selection of circular objects that are similar. So like a glue stick, I don't know, you've got paint pots, things like that that you could draw around to make your circles. But if you're like me, you can just wing it and cut out some shapes. I think they look more fun, and they're going to have faces, so they're quite cartoonish anyway. And then we're just going to do exactly the same thing that we've done before. Where are my Sharpies? Here they are. I'm going to colour them in. So we'll do, let's do Mars and Earth. And again, you might want to think about if you're double-siding it or not. Because these are, you can take them out, I've double-sided them. So I've coloured in on both sides. So I'm going to colour this one in red. And I'm using the creative marker again. I might do a couple of layers, and I might also add in another colour that's sort of similar just to give it a bit of texture. Again, you could use cutouts, collage, different colour. You could use magazine cutouts to stick on it if you don't have big pens. Whatever you fancy. Oh, let's do the green before the blue. Lovely. And now, what I'm doing, I'm sort of multitasking now. I've got a bit of production line. So I've done my green. Now I can go back to my red and do another layer while the green is drying. And then I can do the blue of the sea. And then I can sort of turn one of them over, you know? That's how I work. So I'm going to just do another green layer quickly, just to cover these bits. And then I can go in with the blue. And I'm not going to be neat at all. I don't want it to be neat, really. I want it to be quite fun. And sort of, I suppose it's quite abstract, isn't it? It's all sort of cartoonish. Lovely. So we've got Earth and Mars. And I would say at this point, if they're going to be detachable from the head, then do the other side as well. I'm not going to, just because of time. Now, there's two different ways you can do this. I'm going to use sticky tape to sort of essentially laminate them just to make them a bit stronger. And you could do their face either on top of the sellotape, or you could do it on the cardboard itself. Depends if you've got like marker pens. I'll do it on top just so that you can see. But essentially, I've got some thick sellotape. If you don't have thick sellotape and you only have normal sellotape, that's absolutely fine. All you'd need to do is do a few different layers, because you're going to need a couple of lines to cover it. But this stuff's really great. This is like for people who package deliveries and stuff. Because it's so wide, it's very useful for crafting, and you can buy this quite cheaply on eBay. So I've got myself a bit there, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to stick it down about halfway, make it nice and flat, and then stick it over the other side and flatten it all out like this. And then essentially you've laminated your planet. And then all you need to do is get your scissors and cut around it. Like so. And I'll just do Earth as well, and then I'll do their face. Or is the rest of the session going to be me trying to find the edge of the sellotape? Not sure. We'll see. Here it is. I can see it. So again, we're going to stick down one side like so, and then fold it in half. Easy peasy laminating. Don't need a laminating machine for this. If you do have a laminating machine, feel free to use it, because laminators are great fun, aren't they? The king of the stationery world is the laminator, isn't it? Okay, so now we've got our laminated planets. And now they're going to be, you know, you could spill stuff on them, they can be thrown around, and they're going to be fine. And move those pens out of the way. And then all I've got really here is just like a cheap version of a Sharpie. It's just a black marker pen. And then you can draw a fun face. So you can barely see, that's so tiny. There you go, there's Mars. Mars is very happy. And then Earth, we'll do slightly differently. There you go, lovely jubbly. Now, depending on what marker pen you use, you might find that it rubs off on the sellotape. So again, you could do this before you do the laminating, and that would be fine. But there's your planets. I'm only doing two. Only doing 2 planets in this one. And then essentially, we're going to use some scrap paper to give them some little envelopes to sit in. So we're going back to our face. Sorry for the wobble again. And they would sit about here, because then we'd have Mercury and Venus here. And then you've got Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. Lovely. So I'm just going to show you how I've attached them, essentially, because we've only got a few minutes left. And I've just made little envelopes. I'm going to show you how I did that. And then that'll probably be about it. But it's really simple. I've used a combination of different paper, but all of it's scrap paper. So you can see here I've used like an old envelope, please do not bend envelope. This is a bit of old tracing paper, and then a bit of like gridded notepad. So a mixture is quite nice. You could use any old recycled paper. You could use the leaflets that come through the door, whatever you like. But I'll show you very quickly with, I've got like a page from an old notebook. No, an old book. I think it's an old Enid Blyton book, but I use it for crafting. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to use my planet as a guide. And I quite like the ripped bit, actually. So I'm going to fold that over, and then I'm going to sort of sit the planet in it so that I know where is a good place to fold it. So that sits quite nicely about there with his little eyes poking out. And then I'm going to fold it. I can fold all the way along because I can reuse these bits if I wanted. And I'm purposely moving him in a bit because I'm going to use these bits to fold over. So you want about a sort of centimetre either side. So if I cut that about there, so there's like the start of your little envelope. Now you could have it sitting further up if you wanted, like this. Let's do that so I can show you. So if I just rip that, so there's like the start of your little envelope, and then all I'm going to do is fold it back around the planet like so. And that's basically it. Now, all you need to do is then secure that to your face. You can either just glue it down, which is probably the easiest, but what you might want to do is stick down these flappy bits first. So again, I'm going to use a bit of this craft tape to stick it down. So it's all flat on the back there, and then this bit's still flapping. And then you can get your glue stick, or however you wish. You could stick double-sided tape if you've got any of that. And then you're going to make sure it's sitting in the right area. So Earth is going to be, so if we get Mars here and Earth is about here, so you're making sure it's in the right place. And then we would stick that down like so. So that's all in place. And then Earth fits in there quite nicely. And then you can write your planet on it so you can get them in the right place again. And then essentially you would work your way through with different bits of scrap paper and do the whole thing. So flaps in there. Now there's obviously different ways you could do this. If you've got tiny little envelopes, you could actually stick the envelopes on it. But essentially that's how I do it. That's the easiest way of doing it. Now I've not had time to show you the front or anything, but I think that's fine because I think I would prefer you to take it in your own direction, but I'll just do an overview with my example piece to show you. Just to remind everyone what we've done and how we're going to do it. And also, all I was going to do was write the name and put a face on, but you guys can go to town with it, can't you? You can be really experimental with it. So we're using a full cereal box folded in half. You just need to remember when you're cutting your face out to leave your folded bit so that it creates this card shape that stands up. We're using our offcuts from our cereal box to make our planets and our lovely sun and moon eyes with our 2 split pins. You can use flappy bits, envelopes, laminating your things with sellotape. And if you want to be really experimental, you can do all sorts of hidden magic like Ramona's. I'm going to leave you on Ramona's because it's so fabulous with a lovely little hidden. It's like a little book, isn't it? It's like a kid's book, like Lift the Flap book. Perfect. And all you needed was a cereal box and some pens and 2 split pins. I just think they're beautiful. I think they're absolutely great. So I will reiterate, if you have a go at this, please, 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 please show me what you've done. Put it in the comments. Let us see, because I think they're going to be great. So Victoria, you're doing a day and night with different weather. That's a great idea. So you've got the contrast of the night, and love that. I'm going to need pictures, I'm afraid. You're going to have to show us pictures. It sounds amazing. Yeah, please show us. I'm going to be back soon for some more crafts. What am I doing next? Can't remember. Something fun. I think it's something to do with animals. I know what's going to be next. It's going to be animals as like a sort of gift card that are also sort of hidden away in a little envelope of fun. Okay, I'm going to go now. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Please have a go. If you want to send pictures, if you comment on this Facebook video, which will exist, it will continue to exist. If you comment on that, you should be able to post pictures on there. Failing that, if you want to message the team or if you want to message me, my business is Rosie and Ramona. You can always get in touch with me anytime. And if you do message the Virtual Village Hall team, then they'll pass on pictures to me. So thank you so much. I'm going to go and have some lunch now. I hope you've all enjoyed yourselves, and I'll be back very soon. My name's Rosie. Have a great weekend and have fun making planets. Goodbye. Bye.